Just for a test, tell me your name, sir.
My name is, correct full name?
Yes. What's your correct full name?
Correct full name. We have it on tape.
Is Richard Eugene Forrestal.
Okay.
And your father's name was?
Was Eugene Peter Forrestal.
And your title with the company is?
I am the chairman of the board.
Very good. I'm all, you gentlemen just have a conversation.
And now we just talk. So tell me about your earliest memory with Cold Spring Construction.
Well, my earliest memories are all going with my father when, from the time I was 5 and up to the jobs. And of course, the favorite part of that was the lunch that my mother packed, because she was a good cook and I was always ready for lunch. But I learned on the job and well, I didn't intend to learn on the job. It just as I was there with him. And in fact, I was there in 1930 when the first fatality we ever had. I saw it, which was terrible. But
Good that you bring that up, because what was construction work like back then? Dangerous. It's always dangerous.
well, that particular job was an interesting job because we did it. We still had horses, and we were doing a dam at Hornell, New York, and we had horses on one side of the dam doing the hauling, and we had bulldozers and trucks on the other side, Mack trucks. And my dad was trying to figure out which was better, trucks or horses. So he decided, of course, ultimately, we know the answer to that. I mean, trucks won out, but at the time it was close.
So you were there at the transition from animal power to machine power, aren't you?
Right.
Yeah, and your father started the company with, what year did your father start the company?
In 1911. First job that he did was at Saratoga near Albany.
You okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to start you again because we had the phone at the beginning, and your first line was the first job. You tell me what the
First job we did was in 1911, was a job that was taken over from the bonding company, and it was from Saratoga to Ballston Spa. And the Coralier Construction Company was the one that went bankrupt, and through the bonding company, of course, wasn't there, but Cold Spring finished that job up, and then went to Akron. We were low bidder on a job here at Akron on Route 93, and well, that's how my mother got in the picture, actually, because of it was here in Akron. Route 93 is right here in Akron. And that was a little later, a couple of years later, though. But and Cold Spring was in Buffalo, Ellicott Street in Buffalo originally, and then moved to Akron. I don't remember when, but later, still prior to my time.
But it was your father.
Yep, my dad did, right.
What's it? You're the second generation. There's a third, and there's a fourth coming up. Personally, what's it mean to you to have? I mean, to keep this entity going, to keep the company going. And what do you think has kept it going for these many years?
I mean, what's the question?
Well, the question is, what has 100 years is a long time in the fourth generation, and there aren't a lot of companies, and certainly not a lot of construction companies that have 4 generations. What do you use?
Like none.
Like none, yeah.
Well, I'd love to take credit for all of that, but there's no way. You can't do that. I mean, sure, I might have provided some environment and wherewithal to do it, but that's not what drives this business. This business is driven with competency, with people that can do it. And just because they are a good construction guy doesn't mean that they can do other things. They might be a better doctor or a better lawyer or something like that, but you have to be a little lucky to have somebody that is willing to go to put up with what there is, to put up with the construction business, the hours, the away from home, what it takes for a family relationship and the whole thing to make it work. And I was lucky that to have it in my sons to carry on. And yeah, I guess you have to say that my dad was lucky that he had two boys and that we're both interested in it for the second generation. I think it's just the way it is.
Is there any, well, you know, you say lucky, and you know there is luck and there is something else. But what does it take for an individual to succeed and for a corporation to succeed?
Well, it sounds trite, but it takes dedication. You have to really be interested in it. I think that's true of anything in life. You really got to be interested in what you're doing, and you got to love to do it. And my dad did, and I did, and my boys do too. They live it, and they love it. It's wonderful to love to go to work every morning.
What is it about the work that you really love?
Well, it's a sense of accomplishment. If there are challenges every day, and the challenges that you face at 7 o'clock in the morning may be totally different than the ones you face by noon. And, you know, there's a huge uncertainty in this business. I mean, you got everything. You get the weather, and you got changes in specifications, and it's a fluid business in terms of decision making.
You know, when I've only seen you once drive down a road that you finished, and I'm sure there were many, many more before that one. I've seen you drive down the 219. There was other roads, and there's other roads in the future. What's your feeling when you take the first drive down a road that you guys made?
Oh, it's a tremendous sense of accomplishment, and I can remember the jobs all the way back. All of the first job that I remember the details of was in 1939, and from Medina to Ridgeway. Now, I didn't work on it; I was too young, but I was in high school, or just freshman or else in 8th grade. But I remember on that job with my dad, and I remember well, and my dad did a great job of that. And they didn't pave that again. Well, it's never been torn up. It has been overlaid, but it wasn't overlaid for about 40 years. Now, you can't always do that. Some things don't have the permanency that job did, but that was a good one.
You know, you can drive up all around this part of New York State, and you can say, well, we did that one, we did that one.
Absolutely.
And what kind of feeling do you get when you see that? We did this, and we're going to either fix it or we're going to make it better.
Then wait a minute, what's the question?
The question is, you know, when you drive on a road that you know your company did 20 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 30 or 50 years ago, 60 years ago, going back there, that you're driving through history, aren't you, of your company?
Yeah, driving through history, and you remember those. You remember the little things lots of times. I mean, everything from the engineers that maybe didn't do right by you, at least in your opinion, and to the ones that really helped you, and to the you can't help but be enormously proud of the work.
It's, you know, maybe 20 years from now, 30 years from now, we're not going to be driving the same kind of cars. But there's always going to be roads. What do you think it's going to take to keep this company going for another 50, another 75, another 100?
Well, there's some huge challenges to this industry, especially the legal issue. In other words, the PLA issue, project labor agreements, is a huge issue to us at this juncture. And I mean, I'm not positive how that's going to play out, and nor is anyone. But you just continue to do the best you can with what you got, and then, well, I started to say hope for the best. Well, you don't hope. It's more than that. You do the best you can and hope that the climate and I don't mean the weather, I mean the political climate as well as the needs climate provides the incentive to keep going, and it will. There's always going to be a need for roads, and if the government doesn't get in the way, we'll be here.
Now you've seen, I'm gonna change gears a little bit here, you've seen tremendous changes you've been there when there were horses, and now you're here where your equipment is guided by GPS. So you've really seen this whole broad spectrum from really some guy eyeballing it to using satellite.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We was lock level. I mean, I was brought up, with an eye level that you used it for check and grade. Well, the people today don't even know what those are, naturally. I mean, that's really old technology, but that's what I did, and all strings. We don't have any strings anymore. Even on a paver, we don't have any strings. It's everything stringless. Now, all this GPS stuff, that grade control on the machines, I understand it, and I understand the principles, but, I'm out to lunch when it comes to the details, because it's moving so fast, and that's the incredible thing. Instead of just, you think we've reached the plateau? No, it's going faster and faster. I don't know where it's going to end up. I never thought we'd ever be paving stringless. We are.
Yeah. Let me ask you. Well, there was an old way that we used to do our work, and because of digital technology, we've changed the way we do our work. And
you mean in photography?
yeah. Now we're all digital, and it used to be strips of film. We don't. That's all gone. All that stuff is gone. Everything is now just dump it into a computer and edit it like any document. And I say, well, there's no nostalgia for the old way. Do you have any nostalgia for the old way?
I don't know if nostalgia is the right word. I have a huge appreciation for the old way. Do I wish that we could go back? No, because the obvious thing is you can't go back. You're only going faster, but you got to appreciate the accuracy and the productivity increases. And, it's truly amazing what's been done, and God only knows what's going to be around the corner. You think you're there, but we aren't.
This video is going to be for the event that you're going to have at the end of May, and there'll be 400 people or so there. What do you want them to know about Cold Spring and the 100th anniversary?
Well, it has to be the appreciation of the accomplishments that the company has done. I mean, we know 100 years is a century, and it's a long time, and there are almost no companies that have ever done it. The average life is 7 years of a construction company. That's statistically correct. And here we are at 100 years, and it's well, I say there's some luck involved. There's a lot of hard work too, and it worked out. I'm privileged.
And the right people. I mean, not only just within your family. I mean, I've seen, because we've been out to job sites and we've spoken to a number of people out there.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, we were out to Syracuse. We have video of Syracuse. We have video of the paving, of course, of the 219, the decking in Akron, the work at
yes, I did. Yeah, and I knew you were at Weedsport. That's correct.
So you got to find the right people.
Oh, well, that's key. I mean, that's the whole name of the game. Having the right people, competent, people with the right attitude and people who are gonna see it, hey, Dick, you can't do that. Why? Well, we can't, and then you say, geez, you're right. That's what it takes. You gotta have it's a teamwork with people with ideas.
And you have to build an environment where people feel they can do their best work, is that right?
Oh, totally right, that's key. You need to stimulate people to do innovative things and do a really good job for you. They have to want to do that.
How do you do that? How does Cold Spring do that?
Well, obviously you reward people by paying them, but it's more than that, much more than that. It's people, well, everybody likes to do a good job if they're given a chance. Because it's to their benefit, they're happier, and the company is happier because if they're making money, and so through the results of the people that are there,
Well, you almost contradict yourself a little bit here where you said it's not about making money, it's about doing the job well, isn't it?
no, but you have to make money in order for the company to succeed. The job isn't, the object of the game is to get the job done, but you have to do it with not necessarily a profit motive, but you got to be cognizant of whether you're making money or not. Otherwise, you're not going to be here.
We have this opportunity here, and we're recording this, and what's of a tremendous value to me is this tape recordings I have of my dad. And he's passed away. And I listen to them, and it's a great thing to be able to hear my dad. And for Steve, a good friend of mine, Steve you know how Steve and I go at it. And I can't tell you how much I value his friendship. I love beating him. I really do love to beat him. But I love riding with him more. He's a real gentleman rider. You're getting on there. What do you want your kids to know when they look at this tape and look at this video?
Well, I want them to be proud of the accomplishments that we, Cold Spring, have done, and obviously I'd like to be proud of my contribution to that success. And you're right in the sense that money isn't the bottom line, but money is being profitable. One makes you happier, makes them happier, and then it makes the company viable.
What advice do you want to give to the next generation, the nephew who's going to start? What's your best advice to them?
Well, I guess it's the biggest thing, pay attention, do the best job you can, and it'll work.
Pay attention to what?
Pay attention to detail. Pay attention to the job at hand, what you're trying to accomplish.
And make those small corrections you have to make.
Yep.
And be flexible.
And not be afraid to make changes. Just because that was the way you thought you ought to do it 10 minutes ago doesn't mean that's the way you want to do it. Things change. And that's a problem. Things change so rapidly today.
But you got to be flexible enough to adapt.
You got to be really flexible. You got to listen, not just talk.
Well, how important is it to listen?
Oh, it's hugely important to listen. You got to listen to your people. And the people that won't listen don't survive.
Right, that's key, isn't it?
I think it is.
Tom, anything that you can?
I don't know if this will go anywhere, but if you could talk to Joe on this, but when you said in 1939, you remember going onto that job site. when you're maybe 8th grade or freshman. Can you give somebody like me a sense? Like, I just wish there were a time machine that I could go back to 1939 and go to that job site. I can't. Can you give me an idea what it was like? Give me a sense of what did it smell like? What did it look like? Like when you stepped onto the site, what was there? Can you explain a little bit?
Yeah, is it different now? Well, yeah, that's.
Well, see, of course, the whole paving mechanism was totally different because we were paving with a 34E paver, a foot made in Unday, New York, 34E paver, single lane at a time, and the best we could do was 1,500 feet, single lane in a day, and now we do a mile full width, even 26 feet wide, or 24, but with slip form equipment, and do it with greater accuracy, and
More consistency.
it's well, the changes have been phenomenal.
Do you?
But I don't know if I answered your question. What was it like?
Yeah.
Well, you see, you can't mix up the future with the past. The past was the present at the time, and it was the best technology they had, and we thought we had the ultimate of everything. Dirt moving, paving, grading, all the handwork that was done. We had flocks and flocks of people with hand shovels. Well, now you can hardly find a hand shovel on the job. You got a tiny little excavator that's doing it.
There was a lot more handwork, wasn't there?
Oh.
Yeah.
You see now, when going way back when Cold Spring started, all of the dirt was loaded by hand. See, a guy can pick and shovel 10 yards in a day per man. That's the production that my dad strove for and did do. To pick in the ground, shovel, and load in a wagon 10 yards in 10 hours.
It's hard to imagine that now. That there was that much labor available, that there were just enough people to do all of that.
Yeah, well, for instance, on that job in the first Cold Springs' first job in Akron, when we did Route 93, they had 60 teams, on all locally from farmers, 60 teams hauling, because they could only make 2 trips in the morning, and yeah, and 2 trips in 4 trips in a day.
Because you've seen it, and you maybe didn't see just that, but you knew about that. And do you at times think, how was it possible that we got it done? Do you ever think that?
Well, I'm constantly amazed.
Yeah.
And especially being able to think back, and now I wasn't there in 1911, obviously, but it wasn't long enough, but it was fresh in everybody's mind and when they told me about it. So I feel like I was there.
And it must, because we looked at we have the old film. Steve gave us some old film that we now have digitized, so it's in video. And I think the dam that you talk about is there.
It is.
Yeah, so we have film of that.
And those films, of course, obviously I didn't think I was in a problem, but my dad was really forward thinking, because movies were new. And when he got that Sinai Kodak, I think is the name of it, 16 millimeter film, just think how far ahead of the time that he was. That was in the infancy of photography, of movie photography.
Yeah, I know. I looked. What year was the Hornell? That was 19.
It started in 1928.
Oh, so it was
It finished in 30,
just at the beginning.
as I recall.
It was at the end of the silent era of film, because talkies came in 27. So that was, and for an individual to think, So that, I mean, it's kind of a hallmark of Cold Spring, isn't it? That, well, we work with horses, machines are better, we're gonna work with we're gonna work with trucks are better, that's kind of a hallmark of this company, isn't it? That find the best thing you can and use it the best way you can, isn't it?
Absolutely. You have to be on the forefront of technology because it's a low-cost producer. See, that's the bottom line. You have to be the low-cost producer in order to survive because this is a really competitive world and a competitive business, and nothing's more competitive than the construction business. And the thing I'm proudest of? It's honest. People think of, well, and they want to put a slant on it that you get paid to be the low bidder. You don't get paid to be the low bidder. You get paid for the work that you do because you are a low bidder.
Do you ever find that frustrating that you have to come, you got to do it for the least amount of money, and that you can do it better than X company or Y company? Do you sometimes think, why don't they just hire us? We do the best job out there.
Well, that's an interesting question. Of course, that has happened to us on occasion when special work or something like that, where they didn't have time to go through the bid process, and so they just plain hired us to do it, and we do just as well as we can in that instance. That even happened to us as late as on the bridge job at Springville 2 years ago. They had an emergency and we did it. But we're not alone in that. There are other contractors that do that too.
Tell us, the last thing we'll talk about here. 219 was kind of special, special, maybe it's not the word. It
unique.
Okay, unique. Tell me about your thoughts about the 219 job.
Well, it was the most fun for me of any job that I ever worked on, including the whole schmear, because you never knew in the morning where you were going to end up literally that day, because the thing was changed so that the job as designed, the job as built are totally different. And I'm really, really proud of our people, but I'm also proud of the state people for being able to handle the changes and say, hey, we made a mistake. You can't do that. We got to change this. And they did changes all over the place. I think they were lucky that they had us as a contractor, and because we were flexible and willing to change. But it works both ways. That was a really nice partnership. But we're lucky we had the engineers that we had, too, because, and I'm proud of the work. I loved going down there and visiting. And now I'm just kind of like a bystander, but I visited that job more than any job in our history that I visited 219, because I went there every day that I could.
And it is pretty. It's a pretty stretch of road right there, really, because we've been on it a lot. We rode our bike, not that we're supposed to, but we rode our bikes on it a lot, and it's a pretty stretch of road.
It is.
Yeah. That dip in the middle is a surprise.
Yeah.
I think we got pretty much what we need, eh?
I think we got it.
We got it. Thanks. Steven.
PH.
Oh, it is PH. Sorry. Stephen.
Correct.
Okay. And your title with the company is?
I am president of Cold Spring.
Okay.
We're good? The first question I asked your father was, what was his earliest memory of the company? I'm going to ask you the same question. What's your earliest memory?
Well, Dad took me on so many early jobs. I don't know that I can remember a specific Cold Spring job when I was a little kid. I was with him a lot. I remember when they built the St. Lawrence Seaway in the, I don't know, maybe 1955, so I was 4 or 5 years old. He took me up there and we watched this gigantic drag line dragging out a big excavation for the St. Lawrence Seaway. And I remember when the thruway was just opened up, and you know, going with him. Not, we didn't do any work then. Those jobs were too big for Cold Spring back in the 50s, but that opened in the mid-50s, and I remember him talking about driving on it and taking me on it. So, you know, just there were, you know, every job we got to from my earliest memories were visiting jobs with my dad.
What do you think that does for a young man? Because, you know, it did it for you, it's gonna, and you probably took your son out. And,
Oh, sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
What does that, you know, is there a tradition to keep going? What did you?
I don't think it's an intentional thing. I think it's, you know, young boys seem to love construction, and so it's pretty easy and fun to take your son there, and I enjoyed it as a little kid, and I know Ryan did. And so I don't think it's an intentional, you know, you're not certainly establishing the future of the company by doing that, but, you know, it almost seems to turn out that way, doesn't it? It has so far.
Well,
So.
again, I asked you, but you got something. What do you think? What do you think has made it last 100 years? Because your pop told me 7 years is the average.
Yeah, I know it. You got to be lucky. We've had just such good people, and we've been blessed with working with just a terrific group of men and women, and you know, we do our best to treat everybody fairly and take care of them, and you have to put the employees' best interests right up there with the company making money, because if you don't, you can't have one without the other. So the employees have to do well and make a good living, and then the company will be successful, and that's what we try to preach. And of course, on top of that, you have to have an overall respect for safety and making sure that people get home to their families every night, and just provide a good working place, a nice environment to work. And I think I know that was my grandfather's philosophy, and I know it was my dad's, and it certainly is now with me, and Ryan's absolutely that way. So taking care of people, I think that's what keeps it going. And you have to get lucky. I mean, if Ryan didn't have the aptitude or the interest in the company, then it wouldn't, you know, he wouldn't be involved. And same thing with me. You got to be lucky. So you could have, you know, you never know. You have no control over what your offspring are going to want to do or be capable of doing, and they have to have both. So we've been fortunate.
And yeah, you said you got that. But how many kids did you have? You had
2 girls and Ryan. Ryan has 2 younger sisters.
yeah, so 2 years. So it worked out with Ryan, and you got Jeff coming up maybe. And
Yeah, my sister Mary's youngest son worked for us through high school in the yard. Jeff Borden worked for us through high school and did a great job. Has always, everything he's done very well. And then he went off to college and worked for summers, and he was working or going to school in environmental studies at Syracuse, and became more and more interested in working for Cold Spring as a career, and switched his major to civil, and graduated, you know, on time, 4 years out at Syracuse, and passed his first half of his PE exam, so he's on his way to becoming a professional engineer. And he's just a really good asset. In, you know, 10 years younger than Ryan, so you've got, you know, stepping down the line, there's another good attribute, or a good strong candidate to provide leadership to Cold Spring for, you know, long after I'm gone. So
Cold Spring is just the name of a company, but how do you feel a responsibility to keep it going? I mean, is it in the back of your mind? I mean, it must be at some point where you think, I know we had a conversation really a couple of years ago when you were bidding on a job, and it stuck with me, because you said, and we were just chatting one night, but you know, I listened, and you said it could ruin us.
yeah, we do tackle some big work where you're putting all your eggs in one basket, and there are many nights, and my brother Dude, and my dad, I'm sure, and Ryan, and all of us, Jeff, you lay awake thinking, boy, I hope I didn't do something. After 100 years, we put Cold Spring under because we made a mistake. So that certainly does occur, and there's some sleepless nights. But with the quality of help we have, you know, you get up in the morning, the sun comes up, and you start talking to to the people you work with, and you realize that, you know, we'll get through it. We got capable people, but you got to be careful to manage the risks of this is a high-risk business of people getting hurt, or the weather being bad, or you hit some bad dirt, or you know you have some bad luck with some equipment or whatever. So it's a high-risk thing. You got to manage the risks and have good people, and it keeps going.
There's a series of high risk things. Some that you have some control over, some that you have no control over, some that you have a little bit of control over, and some you can influence a lot. And your dad mentioned luck, and you've mentioned luck, but I have a feeling there's not a lot of luck involved. It's like, as you said, it's more like managing risk, isn't it?
You put yourself in a position to be lucky. So you really have to, you have to anticipate the areas where you can get in trouble and try to steer your way around them or mitigate them, or, you know, make contingency plans, whether it be bidding or weather or, you know, personnel issues. Try to have a backup. You know, our beer truck theory. If something happens to somebody, if I get hit by a beer truck on the way to work, or if I get hit by a truck on my bicycle, that there's another plan in place. So yeah, you do. It isn't all luck. You have to put yourself in a position to be lucky.
Just listening to talking with your pop out there, and Ryan just coming in, that it struck me that you really kind of go backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. What can happen? What will happen? What can we change? How do we fix that? So it's constantly that, isn't it?
It's the nature of this business. It's so interesting because it's not the same. It's not going into a factory and making the same thing day after day, whether it be a car or a cell phone or whatever. It's very different every day, and you have to be flexible, and it's so much fun. I had a great session this morning with Bill Stewart on the phone, our superintendent on the big Weedsport job over on the Thruway in Weedsport, New York, about how are we going to manage the barrier that's coming off of there and moving down to our Cooper's Plains job for Jeff Younger, and you know, the best way to do it, the best excavators to use, and it's just you trade ideas back and forth like you saw in there, and it's really it's a brainstorming all the time and being flexible and thinking about different ways, different approaches to things instead of being so rigid that, you know, we always did it that way, we better do it that way next time. So, and taking advantage of the technology. We're working very hard, and Ryan's and Jeff Borden are spearheading that, and you need that younger generation, the more computer literate, the more tech savvy people, but that makes us very competitive.
And you've gone from, your father went from horses to machines.
Well, my grandfather really went from horses to chain drive trucks. That one video that we have of the job, I don't know, it was a Hornell Reservoir, where they were actually running horses and trucks to see which was less expensive to move dirt. So, yeah, so my grandfather went from horses to trucks, and my dad really went from mechanical things into the beginning of the hydraulic. And then for us, it's the hydraulic equipment is evolving into much more computer-controlled, electronic over hydraulic, and the capabilities that gives you are incredible. The productivity is increased tremendously, and our employees embrace that. We, you know, maintain a real steady, very very low turnover, and to a person, to a man and woman, they all love I feel they all love the advances in technology and what it does for them, and how much it makes the work go faster, and they love to learn, and it makes us a very highly trained and highly flexible workforce.
You're going to have 400 people there, 200 couples.
That's what we're anticipating for the party on May 21st, the 100th anniversary.
What do you want them? What do you want them to know? What single message do you want those people that night to know about your?
I think obviously it's a celebration of the fact that not very many companies make it to 100 years. This is a pretty big deal, but it's also saying thank you to our employees and their families and our friends and competitors. With some other contractors there that that have helped us, and we've helped them over the decades, and it's just it's a way to say thanks and celebration at the same time.
And touching on that, it's relationships. You guys have long relationships, don't you?
Oh yeah, with our, our bonding agents are Fuller and O'Brien out of Albany. They've been our bonding agents since, I guess, before I was born. And we stayed in with the same attorney, Jim Gormley from Damon and Morey has been our attorney forever. And it's, yeah, and same way with our people. Our pension fund is, invested the same and been very successful with Ed Schill. It's just, yeah, we value relationships and we don't change things very, on a whim. We're very loyal to our Caterpillar dealer, now Milton, previously was Syracuse Supply until Milton bought them out. They've been great to work with. So yeah, relationships and long-term business arrangements have been our MO forever. Yeah.
And you've always, well, talk about Cat. I mean, we'll talk about it with you. You've always bought your equipment essentially from the same person, same people, same company, sort of. And it's always been Caterpillar. I mean, it's always.
Yeah, we've concentrated my whole life. Obviously, when my grandfather started, we're older than Caterpillar. Caterpillar tractor was started after Cold Spring was started. So we didn't start with Caterpillar, but early on, my dad, I think, was trying to remember which the first Caterpillar bulldozer we had. I think he said a 30 or something, and I don't know what the year, it was a long time ago. So we've been with Cat. It's an American company that does a great job, great service, great support, and we've been very successful with it and good resale value. So it's just, I don't know, it's my brother Dude, he says anytime we see something yellow we want to buy it. So we're heavily invested in Caterpillar equipment.
That and you're in order kind of to make this successful. You talked about luck before, but you really have to nuance. Your brother, Dude, he's a money guy.
Yeah, it's been a great relationship, because he handles all the insurance and all of the financial end, and I don't have to think about it, and I can concentrate on the field work, and yet we certainly speak the same language. It's amazing to sit down with him and have a discussion about work, and so often he starts to say something, I know what he's thinking, and can almost say it for him and vice versa. So it's been a really good thing. He's incredibly talented, and how would you ever find a guy with that kind of talent with a CPA and an MBA and have him work at this family business? We're lucky to have him.
And I've seen it out of the different job sites we've been at, it's almost, I would hazard to say that the people who you brought into the company who work for you, who are not family, you got to sort of, bring them into the fold, right?
Yeah. When we talk family here, we don't talk, blood relationships. We consider the employees are part of the family. It's a family business, and we have a lot of, I guess we kind of champion nepotism. We've got a lot of husbands and wives and sons and daughters working, and we don't shy away from that. It makes for some difficult situations at times. Sometimes it doesn't work out, and you'll have a very good employee who asks if his son can get on, and sometimes we do it, and once in a while it isn't perfect, and you try to gracefully, go another direction. But on the whole, it's just been a really great way for us to go, and we treat everybody. We try to treat everybody as part of the family, and I think it's worked out very well. Helped us make it to 100 years, and if we can keep this going, we'll get another 100 in.
Well, that's what kind of my last question is. What you might not be driving 20 years from now or 50 years from now. Might not be driving a car that burns gasoline, but there'll be something you'll be sitting in that will get you down the road, and it will be. And the key to that sentence, the word is, it's going to be down the road.
Yeah. I think if you ask my dad this, I think he'd quote his father as saying that there will always be roads to fix. So, certainly the end is not in sight. We're not going to all suddenly fly. We're going to always be driving roads, and right, it might not be burning gasoline, but we'll have cars and vehicles that need, trucks that need to get down roads, and they're going to have to be built and maintained, and we've found something that we think we're pretty good at, and we hope to do it for the certainly foreseeable future. No end in sight.
What other than precision that occurs because of digital technology and electronics on top of hydraulics, do you think we've, I guess every generation, well, it can't get any better than this, and then it gets better. It can't get any better than this, and then it gets better. What do you see down the road that's going to be? You know, at some point, you still got to drop. You got to put
I'm going to
cement.
stop you with that question.
All right. What do you think? Wow. You know, what's down the road? At some point, I guess it's just precision. It's just.
Well, it's certainly the.
We good? Hold on.
We're good.
Okay.
We good? Okay.
Yeah.
The computer integration into our equipment, whether it be the engine combustion management that helps burn diesel fuel more efficiently and cleanly, or controls, grade controls, and you saw the paving, the dowel bar inserter, all the electronics that control that. It's the integration of the mechanical end of the business, which are always going to have the blades pushing dirt, and the blacktop pavers laying blacktop, and the concrete paver extruding concrete. That part doesn't change, but what does change is the way, the efficiency that it's done, and the computer controls for elevation and steering and all the stringless stuff. We used to put strings down everywhere, and now we're not doing any strings. And it's just been we really embrace that. We try very, very hard to stay on the cutting edge with all of that. We were talking earlier about the real-time smoothness right behind the paver, so we know what the ride is right behind the concrete paver. And that's going to make a big difference, so that we can adjust things and see what the result of that adjustment is, the slump or the truck dumping or the finishing, whatever.
And I did this with your pop, and I'll do it with you, because we got you on tape and well recorded, and we got a mic on you. And what do you know? We're old now. We're getting old. We're gonna be around forever. What do you want them to, if they pop this, not necessarily this DVD, but because this raw footage you'll get. And maybe this isn't, and this doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be there. What do you want 20 years from now, Jeff, to know?
Oh, I hope he enjoys the work. I hope Ryan and Jeff and their successors enjoy the work and get as much back out of it. It's very rewarding. At the end of the day, end of the year, you look back and you drive over that bridge down in Springville that we rode our bikes on before they opened it this last summer, and you see we actually built that, or you built a piece of expressway, or that section of the thruway from exit 39 to exit 40 with a new concrete pavement in both directions after 3 years. That we built that. We had a hand in that, and I think every one of our employees, I think, takes pride in what they've accomplished. And this is a unique business in that sense. And so for the rest of your life, you drive over a road or a bridge or past a dam that you helped build, or an airport that you put the runway in, and you think, we did that, and there it is, and it's helping the lives of everybody that gets to use that. So it's a very rewarding business. Yeah.
Well, you do make a contribution. I mean, it's a very tangible, very concrete.
Yeah, pardon the pun.
Pardon the pun. Contribution. It lets commerce occur.
Yeah, absolutely. We provide a very important function to allow society to work. It's fun, and it's very challenging and very interesting. There's no lack of opportunity for innovation. You get challenges are there every day, and there's ample opportunity to try to come up with a better way to do something. It's really fun. I love going to work every day.
And love doing the work.
And love doing the work, yeah.
You really do like it, don't you?
Oh, yeah, love it.
You,
Yeah.
you would, like me too, I would just do this because it's fun.
Yeah.
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 That's a great way to live, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. If the old saying that if you like what you do, you never have to work a day in your life. So, and I think that's really true in this industry. Not every day is perfect, but on the whole, they're a lot of fun.
Ryan Forstow.
And what's your title here? What do you do?
My title's vice president. That's not necessarily representative of what I do.
But that's what we can call you.
Yes,
We can't call you VP of, or just VP?
just vice president.
Vice President, Cold Spring Construction.
All right, that's good. All right, I just wanted to make sure I had an audio check,
Okay.
and we're good.
Ryan, we kind of purposely put you in the same seat we put your grandpa in.
Okay.
We have Steve sitting in his office, being a little more comfortable, but Steve's job in some ways done. He did what he had to do. He kept it going. It's up to you.
Understood.
Now he kept it going. He's already proved he's done it. Your father was there to keep it going. Your grandfather was there to keep it going from your great granddad. Now you got to set it up for the next group of guys. The next people that you call the Cold Spring family, which is some of it's family and some of it's family that you bring in. What do you think you got to do to keep it going?
I think it's a combination of continuing the things that have led to our success through our history in terms of our philosophies about the way we go about work and how hard we work, and our philosophies about the way we treat people. But I think we also need to embrace some new things, and a lot of that is technology. And that's been a large part of my focus since I've been back with Cold Spring full time, has been focusing on technology and how we can do our job more efficiently and do it more accurately and at a lower cost, and how we can put ourselves out in front of our competitors on, and particularly focusing on certain kinds of work, using the technology to advance the things that we've historically been good at. And I think that's something that we've made some real steps in and will continue to push forward.
You seem like a confident mid-30-something fellow, but do you feel looking down the road, you think, yeah, I can do this? Do you have that feeling that I can do it?
I do, and a lot of that has to do with the foundation that's been established for me. The things that...
I'll stop here only because it's such a great, you started with a great answer, and I'll give you your first 4 words, just to keep it going. I feel, I think, pick anyone you want there. I think I'll be able to keep Cold Spring going because of the foundation that's been laid there for me. So that's just, I picked the back end of your first sentence, but just so it's just because my voice isn't in this.
Okay.
Only your voice is. So if you would begin that sentence with, I think I can keep Cold Spring going because.
I think I can work to keep Cold Spring going forward because of the foundation that's been laid for me by those who have come before, starting with my great-grandfather and through my grandfather and my father, in terms of how hard we're willing to work and how we're able to treat our people and making good choices and investing back into the business and embracing new things going forward that we think can improve our business.
And it's always that. I mean, you really have to keep, if you don't embrace things to do the job better, do the job quicker, do the job cheaper, you don't survive, do you?
No chance. Because somebody else is going to make the choice to do things better and cheaper. And if we aren't going to make that choice, then we are not going to be doing the work.
So there's a bit of, I know your father's very competitive. Absolutely know that. He hides it. Some of it is competition, isn't it? I mean, there's winning and losing in this game, ain't there?
Absolutely. there is winning and losing. I mean, there's the big winning and the big losing in terms of being successful in a business or going out of business, but there's competition on every level. There's competition in terms of bidding on projects. There's competition in terms of doing the work for faster and cheaper than you thought you could when you bid the work. And there's competition in terms of doing a better job than has been done before.
Is there, what frustrates you about this work?
I think the biggest frustration has to be the bureaucracy of the ownership. It's government. And very seldom do you get to deal one-on-one with people like you like to in the business world, where you talk to a person and you can both be party to a decision and stick to that decision. Everything in government is by committee, and no one's willing to take, there are very few people who are willing to take individual responsibility for making decisions. And that's very frustrating. And the way I like to do business is to talk to somebody and to work out a solution or make a plan with that person and move forward. And it can be frustrating not to do that. Things that should seem easy, you should be able to sit down, hammer it out, and move ahead, take months, and that's frustrating.
But that very same process seems to have led to the success of Cold Spring.
It does. Just because it's a frustration doesn't mean that you don't work within the system. We still have to be very good at working within that system to be successful at what we do. And despite those challenges, we still seek out those individuals who are willing to take responsibility for decisions, who are willing to do business the way that we would like to do business. And I think that's why Cold Spring has a history of very good relationships with the owners.
You mentioned, I counted 2 times, I think you might have said 3 times, relationships. Your grandfather talked about it, your father talked about it, and that seems to be really relationships at all levels, to the people who you bring into the company, the people you deal with outside the company, the people you buy your trucks from, the people you buy your equipment from. You have some really long-term relationships here.
Absolutely. And
What does long-term relationship mean to a company?
it's about trust. You deal with those people on a regular basis. You deal with them in a manner that allows them to trust you. You deal with them with integrity, and they know that that's how you're going to deal with them, and they know that if they do what they can do to help us continue to get work, we're going to do what we can do to continue to support them by doing business with them. It's a two-way street, and it's that way in all the relationships, whether it's with our employees or with our suppliers or with our equipment dealers. With that long-term relationship, you can establish that trust and that knowledge that you're going to be dealt with fairly. And I think that's something that lends us an advantage in the work that we do.
What did you learn from your dad and perhaps from your grandfather, which helped you or allows you to do the best job you can?
I think the first thing I learned from them was...
The last thing I learned from mention them in a sense. First thing I learned from my grandfather and father.
Okay.
So just start again.
The first thing I learned from my grandfather and father about being successful in this business was just how hard you have to work. The amount of effort you have to put forward all the time to try to do the best job, to try to stick to the ideals that Cold Spring has been working toward, and just to show that we're absolutely as vested in the success of Cold Spring as every other person out there, and to lead by example and to show what the expectations are.
That has a lot to, and they did that, they led by example.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I
Some-
mean, I'm seeing that too. Because your grandfather is old and he's still coming to work. Yeah, I know about your pop. If you're anything like your pop, oh boy. You know, but you guys are tough. Well, you got to be tough. I mean, this business. Where do you have to be tough, and where do you have to be not so tough?
Well, that's something else. The amount of toughness you have to show is something else that's a learning process. You have to be tough in terms of working hard, and you have to be tough in terms of sticking to your ideals. But you also have to be compassionate in dealing with people. This it doesn't matter what the business is, you still have to deal with people. And you can't always be tough on your people. So there's a definite balance there that needs to be played, and that's a learning process, and that's a more difficult learning process than just working hard. There's more subtlety in those people relationships.
And ultimately, that's what keeps you guys going, I guess. Really, because it's those subtle bits, right? Because you could work hard, but you got to massage the subtleties to make it a success.
Absolutely. You have to be tough and you have to work hard, but you have to have some finesse as well. There are times when you have to step back and let something develop, or you have to take care of a situation with kid gloves, not with your stomping boots on.
And that's what. I don't quite know how to phrase this question, but I'll ask it. How much of a responsibility do you feel? And I kind of asked your father this question this way, and it was a conversation I had with your dad at one time when we were, on the bike and we were talking. He says, "Oh, it was about," and I think it was a bit. He says, "It'll ruin us if we don't get this." And that really surprised me that a company of your long standing and your father said it could ruin us. How much of a does that shade how you work, the responsibility of keeping the name alive and going?
Absolutely. And it's not so much the name, it's the people and the family. And I don't mean blood relation family, the family of everyone at Cold Spring. It's very important to maintain what we have and to maintain the success of what we have so that those people can all continue to work, continue to provide for their families, and continue to have what I think is a very good place to work.
Pretty good, eh?
There you go.
There you go.
Richard Forrestel Jr., but I've always been called Dude.
Dude.
And-
D-O-O.
D-O-O-D. Yes.
Oh, and what's your title here? What do you do?
I'm treasurer and secretary. I do administrative things. In my view, there's three functions of every business: the folks that do the business, execution; the folks that get the business, in this case it's estimating; and the folks that do the business of the business. And in this organization today, in 2011, Steve's president and CEO, but he runs the field and the execution, and he interfaces extensively with Tom Bloom, who I don't know if you've talked to him yet. You met him. And Tom he's our vice president of engineering, but he's responsible for the estimating, and then I do the administration, kind of business of the business.
Okay. Tom Bloom left today, right? He left. Is he here?
Yeah, he's here.
Okay.
I talked to him a half hour ago.
Oh, okay, good.
He may have come and gone, but he's here.
Well, you're the third, and now the official question begins. You're your grandfather. So you guys are, your great-grandfather started, of course, as you know, and your grandfather kept it going.
Our grandfather started it.
You,
Steve's and my grandfather started this. Grandpa, Dad's dad.
oh, right, because it's your dad who's 86.
Right.
How old are you?
I'm 53.
Oh, so you're the baby.
No, I'm not, baby. I'm number 7 of 11. Steve's number 1.
Oh, there were 11 kids.
Uh-huh.
Holy.
Yes.
Holy.
Yes.
So not everybody went into the business.
Everybody works summers.
Yeah.
I think all 11 of us worked summers. But oh, no, we're scattered across the country.
Oh, so it really, so when you have 11 kids like that, it was really a choice of yours that you wanted to be working for Cold Spring, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Why did you make that choice?
Oh, some of it was serendipity, some of it was just what I liked. When I was an undergraduate major in biology at Princeton, and I at the same time applied to both medical school and business school. I got waitlisted in med school and got into Michigan Business School, which is where I ultimately wanted to go to school at some point in my life in Ann Arbor. Having mom and dad went there, and I think 8 of the 11 of us have been at some point in our career in school in Ann Arbor. And I wanted to go to school there, and I got into business school, and I thought, that's great. And so in 1980, I went to Ann Arbor and spent 2 years in business school. Loved it. I loved it, and majored in accounting and finance. I passed the CPA exam, and at that point I was already dialed into coming back here. I was already definite in my mind that I was coming back to Cold Spring, so I finished business school, spent 2 years in Philadelphia working for one of the big 8 accounting firms, and then came back in 1984.
So, well, just something I learned here is that it's really not, so it's not automatic that you work for Cold Spring if you're a Forrestal, is it?
No, absolutely not. It's certainly not automatic. It's a matter of talent and interest.
What do you think it takes to succeed in this? What do you think it has taken, and what does it take, and what will it take? I'm going to put these all together because it's a good question to answer. What did it take? What has it taken? What does it take? What will it take to keep Cold Spring going?
We'll be 100 years old in a week. And how did we get here? The short answer is serendipity, luck, and hard work. And it's that simple. There is no such thing as any business model that works just because we work hard. That doesn't exist, in my opinion. I think that invariably it takes both luck and just being in the right place at the right time, serendipity, just chance.
Well, what chance? What has to happen? What stars have to align?
The right kind of work at the right time in the business, the right people coming into the organization. I mean, yeah. Is that hard work? Yeah, of course it is. It's always hard work. In our business, if you look at how we got to where we did in 2011, the stock ownership consolidated at several occasions in the past. I being a finance person, I look at the ownership, the equity. And Uncle Tom had 9 daughters, and none of them wanted to be in the business. So when Dad bought Tom out in 1977, when Tom died, I think it was June 17th of 77, Uncle Tom died. And none of his daughters wanted to be in the business. Had any of them been boys, would they wanted to be in? Would we have been able to transition as effectively as we did, do the estate planning that we've done? I don't think so. But that's what I mean by serendipity and luck. I mean, I'm not saying this lucky that Uncle Tom died, that's not the point. But it is, it's almost, some of it's just random. Some of it's random. When a low pressure center comes off the west coast, the Horn of Africa, sometimes it rains and sometimes it's a hurricane. It's just.
So it hasn't been, there's nothing that you can specifically put your finger on, but if you were to say because you can't count serendipity and you can't count luck because those things can be influenced by any number of factors that you have no influence over. But of the factors that you do have some influence over.
Hard work and passion. And we like what we do. I spent 2 years in public accounting in Philadelphia, and we would work 6 months on a job, and we would write a 4-paragraph opinion. Blah, 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 general accepted accounting principles, seems reasonable, was effectively what we said. No, that is not what I wanted to do with my life. And I knew it. I mean, I knew I wanted to get certified as a CPA, fine. But what we do is real. I'm a kind of tangible, graphic kind of person. At least for me, it was very meaningful to come back and to have passion for what we do. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a PE. I'm a CPA MBA. And I have a very different skill set than Steve does. And in that sense, he and I are very complementary. Ryan has a skill set very similar to Steve's, just updated, generationally updated. He's more tech savvy, and I think Steve would say the same thing. But we love what we do. You know, yeah, it's hard work, and some days it's work just plain awful work, but we love what we do. And I think, and Dad has always loved this business. I think, and anyone who devotes in their career to this, it is about passion.
Does the, I think of, Steve, Steve always seems to be writing it right here, right now. And I think his son's a little bit like the right here, right now, I think. And I think you really appreciate the history of the company more. Am I right about that?
I don't know that maybe I do. I don't know. I can't answer that. I'd have to have that conversation with Steve directly. I think a lot of what I have done over the years has not been out on building a road. I've been involved in, I've worked with Dad a lot over the years, since even right when I came back in 1984. We worked on transitioning stock ownership and doing estate planning. So I've always had that kind of holistic, long-term view of what can we do? How can we keep this going in the future? I think that way. I mean, I'm kind of long-term strategic kind of thinking about the business as a business. I'm not talking about what we should build in the future. That's not at all what I'm talking about. But if we don't watch that, if I don't watch that side of the house, or someone watch that side of the house, then the business itself can't succeed. It's easy to be a great contractor, but not stay in business. That's real easy to do. I mean, there's millions of examples of that in every business around. And I appreciate business as business. I mean, I love what we do, and I love the products that we build, but I also love business as business.